it means that ultimately you run stuff based on what you have, not just what you want at any minute. I just want to run this so I can run this. It's like, I want to run an MP7, but I don't have any more. All right. Like so I'll run this and hope I find an MP7 today. And so somebody earlier in the chat was like, well, then people will just rat run to spots that spawn guns. And I'm like, how is that worse than being able to buy any gun you want at any moment without having to play the game? How is that worse? How is it worse going into raid with a lower tier kit because you don't have high tier kits and going to try and find kits? That's called replayability. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. So dedicated to talking about all the poggers things in life, like music, content creation, and video games. I forgot what else we talked about on the podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jesse Kazam, and I have Sour Patch Kid flavored Mountain Dew.
My name's Veritas, and I'm jealous. And not only that, but my beard game is so weak that I doubt I'm a good person.
That is unreal.
I was scrolling for context, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I was scrolling through. I was 10 seconds ago. I was trying to find a comment from somebody who had done some translation from what Nikita had said to follow up on what we talked about last week with the flea market. And I was just scrolling. I see a comment about my. Oh, too funny.
About your beard and its correlation to how good or bad of a person you are.
We were trying to figure out the over/under on whether it was like a meme. Like if he had like a winky face, it would have been clever and ironic. Without a winky face, it's sad. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's not sad.
Yeah. It's
fascinating. I feel like looking at a weird exotic animal in a zoo I've never seen before. I'm like, whoa, I've never seen. How did that come to exist? It's a zebra, but it's got a tentacle.
Yeah. I think it may have found
and wings. Anyway, the conversation we had last week was about summary translated bullet points from a podcast that Nikita had done about the flea market, and one of the things was that was like mentioned and or paraphrased in a Nice Guy's summary video was the idea that maybe the flea market would be removed. Because it was just ambiguous language where he was talking about the flea market, then changed kind of the subject a little bit over to a few other things, and then at the end said, this is a feature that we might remove entirely.
We still think of the fate of the flea market was how it was translated, and we were like, what?
Yeah, that's what it was. So
I think I found the comment if you want me to read it.
Although because it's written, I mean, you have to say it in a Nikita accent.
I can't do Russian.
Or make me or paste it into the chat or something.
I used to be able to. Hold on. Is this it? Anyways, but yeah.
Yes. Okay. So what Nikita had said when I reached out to him was I sent him a screenshot of the bullet point list from like the forum post.
Oh yeah,
And Nikita had said, and I asked him if when he said removing it entirely, did you mean the flea market or did you mean flea market reputation? And we got a comment on the video where a guy who said he was a Russian. Thank you. I'm not going to be able to pronounce your name because it's Cyrillic. He said, let me try to transcribe what Nikita said about the flea market.
And so he's transcribing the original audio. What we were originally reading was transcribed from the audio. So he's actually went back and he isn't interpreting that transcription. This guy listens to what Nikita said and translated it. Just for context.
And for all we know, what we read was a transcription. What was a translation of a transcription of a summarization of what Nikita said. So he says, Wait. Okay. So now I'm not even gonna do the Nikita accent because I just read the first thing and it reminded me why I wanted to talk about this.
Yeah.
He says, I even thought to remove. Oh wait.
Flea market rep.
Dude, my brain. What is going on?
Are you okay? Are you okay?
What's happening?
I don't know.
So, okay, wait. Flea market reputation completely. I read that multiple times as remove flea market completely, not flea market reputation.
Oh, no, yeah.
But later, he said, flea market is a pain. If I would develop EFT from the scratch, which is a Nikita thing.
From the scratch.
From the scratch, I wouldn't, I'm not going to try it. I wouldn't create the flea market at all. Once you get to the flea market, blah, 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 it's a lot easier. You can buy all this stuff. Well, you can buy all needed items, and that sucks. I don't like it. Maybe we will do something on release. Maybe we will remove flea market completely. We will see DLC flea market for 9,999 rubles, huh? Let me now think if everyone will think it's a joke or not. So he was...
Yeah.
That to me is a totally different context where clearly he's making a joke about the flea market being DLC, but now that means to me that he was talking about the flea market.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. The translation makes it clearer and more complicated. It clarifies that like he really was talking about the rep, but then it also proves he has and does consider what Tarkov would be like without the flea market.
Yeah, like maybe we'll remove it completely. Maybe we'll do something on release, he said, right?
Yeah.
So like to me, that is the idea that clearly it's problematic. And I think, at least to me, he's not ruling out, like it's not.
Yeah.
The flea market removed from the game is no longer something personally that I will say it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Now I'll go from, I'll either argue for it or argue against it or have the discussion one way or the other. But before I thought that the discussion wasn't even worth having because he had said, I don't know how many times that they aren't going to do it. And I was sick of trying to be on either side of that.
And then so for a little bit of context, he talks about like, because the big question for me, here we are 2-3 years later into the flea market is, what do you, Nikita, not Veritas, want the economy of Tarkov to be like, and do the things we have in the game serve that dream? And it's been, when we were leading up to the flea market, he used to talk about the flea market the way he talks about the armor hitboxes. It was a feature he was really excited about. Like they had talked like, man, we're like super excited to announce the flea market. And so obviously it's, become this whole thing. But so now we're years into that. All these changes have made. We talked about that last week. So, but what do you even want? So he kind of touches on that per this translation after Nikita made that joke about removing the flea market and making you pay for the DLC. He says, if we had an economy, which I'm dreaming of implementing one day, the economy where you don't have tons of items spawning everywhere and don't have unlimited trader supply, then flea market would be good because then there would be a small amount of items on sale on the flea market and they would be super expensive. But then there are players who have a lot of money, they cheese gameplay and earn billions pretty easily, making everything complicated. That's a super interesting paragraph because it tells me a little bit about what he wants the flea market to be, and it tells me he doesn't understand why it's not that way. You know what I mean? So like he wants there to be not that many items. Like based on that, I can see Nikita's dream being like, are there any wires on the flea market? No. Damn. You know what I mean? Like, oh yes, for 300,000 rubles. Like I can see him like that's kind of what he was saying. Stuff's rare. It's hard. You might spend a bunch of money to invest in like a random thing because you can't find it and you can find it on the flea market. And so I get that. That's cool. And previously he talked about, lowering how many items you can put on the flea market and stuff like that, which makes sense. But then on the flip side, when he says that, when he says, but then there are players that have a lot of money and they cheese gameplay and earn billions pretty easily, making everything complicated. It's like you said earlier, I wish we had an economy where items weren't spawning everywhere and you didn't have unlimited trader supply. It's like, then people wouldn't have billions of rubles if items didn't spawn everywhere and we didn't have unlimited trader supply. The fact that I can get all the best attachments and most of the best guns from the trader on reset as in perpetuity. And the fact that even after Lighthouse being nerfed 4 times, I can go into Lighthouse as a scav and basically 20 to 25% of the time walk out of there with 1 to 2 million rubles worth of stuff. I have a ridiculously low flea market rep for how high of a level I am. I'm level 55. I have almost 1,000 raids, and I just broke 10 flea market rep. And in order to get your 3rd flea market slot, you need 30 flea market rep. Airwing Marine just got his 4th flea market slot, which you need 70 rep for. Okay, so I have 42 million rubles and I barely sell items on the flea market. I vendor them. The gold skull rings, the bitcoins, all that stuff that I find on Lighthouse on my scav runs when I make 2-3 million rubles in a scav run, I vendor that stuff. So that's an interesting paragraph where he was like, I wish items didn't spawn everywhere and you would have all this unlimited access to the flea, but we can't do that because all these people have billions of rubles and they mess up the flea market. And I'm like, I do understand they can do things to make the flea market more restrictive, like lower the amount of things you can list and stuff like that. But that's not the whole story. People don't create things and then sell them on the flea market, although I guess you kind of do with crafting in the hideout. People go get things and sell them on the flea market. So I'm very interested at that response to that question. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think a lot of Nikita's like lack of understanding or whatever you want to call it, and a lot of people too when they talk about anything related to like supply and demand of items, is the idea that for any given like loot spot, there's a 1% chance, that X will spawn.
Yeah.
For any individual player, that means you're gonna have to look there, right, like 100 times, on average. But what that means is that if there's 20 of those spots on every map and 8,000 raids going on at any given 10-minute period, and PMC's grabbing them and bringing them out and putting them on the flea market, this thing that might be super rare for you to find is now an infinite supply.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Because
So
just the economy of scale. So many people playing, so many people extracting with the item. That means the item isn't rare.
yeah. Just the idea of like it seems like at times during, and for some reason I can't think of or articulate any of the specific cases, but it just seems like there's some sort of not quite understanding of the difference between the spawn rate of an item versus how common that item is going to be
on the flea market.
When you put it in raids and make it craftable and make it so that people will put it up on the flea market, right? Like,
and the Ledex, the Ledex is a great example of that, because the Ledex is a super rare, super expensive item, but then it flooded the flea market and you could get Ledexes for 500K. So then they made it even rarer. So then and making it rarer didn't make less on the flea market. It made them more expensive on the flea market. So now they're so prohibitively expensive on the flea market and so rare in the game, but you need one for a quest. So what was the response to that? Now they're craftable, therefore increasing the amount on the flea market, because when you craft things, and that's like a perfect example of the logic of the like truly not understanding exactly what you said, the economics of something's rare, but that doesn't mean that it won't be on the flea market. And that spiraled into just this weird spot where Ledexes are super rare, but they're craftable, but they're still all over the flea market.
It all comes back,
and then we're here.
It all comes back. You know what? The beginning, the patient zero of all of this is the fact that Nikita got butthurt that a bunch of people in China used to spawn in and instantly run to factory exfil so that they could boost their survival rate stats.
Yeah. Patient zero.
Because of that,
is,
he added the run through. And then eventually they added
Found and Raid.
Later they added the Found and Raid as like 19,000 band-aids on top of the whole quest and flea market combination.
Yeah.
Then they had to attach the Found and Raid band-aid. Now the Found and Raid band-aid was wrapped in a saran wrap and bubble gum and baling wire makeshift splint of the run through system. It's just all intertwined, all comes down to just bad design.
Now, with the understanding of everything is connected and everything spider webs out, like we've said before, spaghetti code, spaghetti features, band-aids on band-aids on band-aids on band-aids. Understanding that, hearing Nikita talk about that, where he was like, where in that thing, he said, you know, I wish that people, it would be a choice. Like, it would be a big decision what you put on the flea market. The marketplace, you're going to say, because when you sell an extra item on the flea, it's not right. You need to think and choose what to sell. Most valuable, most expensive stuff. What market really needs at this moment. So he wants it to be more of a choice. Once again, this is like a really quick thought experiment, but like,
but you just can't have that.
I understand.
No, I'm saying, but like just the fact that if there's a demand, he's talking about, he wants, like, the whole point of the 2 items at a time is, if you think about it, the problem he's trying to solve is that he doesn't want you to be able to sell a million things at any one given time.
Yeah.
But he doesn't put 2 and 2 together, that if there's a demand for something and you put it up on the flea market, it will sell instantly.
Yeah.
Which means your slot instantly gets
freeze back up.
Freeze up, and you can put, so literally by the time you put an item up, go back to your inventory, scroll until you find the next thing you want, the other thing is sold. So you can sell an infinite number of things all the time.
But that's what I'm saying. Chat is going to hate this idea. So just you and me for a second. I'm not saying this is a good idea, but to serve what Nikita wants, wouldn't it make more sense to limit the amount of items, the amount of times you can place a sell order on the flea market in a 24-hour period? What if you could only do that twice?
Yeah, something like that. There's 9 million ways. Give me 3 sale vouchers that I can redeem, you know, like whatever. Sure, absolutely. Something like that.
It would limit transactions. It would mean that, you know, maybe you find something and you need money real quick and you sell. It would mean you would sell things that people would want, but then you might not have found a LEDX that day in your Tarkov play. So it might, like, the meta might then be play your whole Tarkov session, then at the end, based on what you found, you sell these 2 things at, you know, I'm signing off for the day, boom, boom, I list these things. It would kind of introduce like the playing the market a little bit again. These are high, everyone's on this quest right now, and I found this, and so these are trending higher than the flea market because, or higher than LEDXs because they're so low in quantity. Now, I understand that, like, and this is kind of a big overarching factor that a lot of people that are playing the game right now want the game to get easier, and Nikita's like, it's going to get harder, it's going to get harder. So I'm not saying that that's a good or a bad idea. I'm saying, so it's like, what we want is Nikita making the game he wants, because that's when the most things are going to be at their best. If Nikita's making a game he's not excited about, it probably won't be developed well. And if, you know what I mean? So based on what, not what I think, but based on what Nikita says he thinks would be good for the market, wouldn't that be better than limiting amount of things you can sell at one time, for exactly your point? It hasn't affected me at all that I have 2 slots versus 3, because I always sell 1 ruble below, and I can always sell it right before I put the next thing back up. So it just never goes away. But if I can only sell 3 things in a day,
it's only when I get like 82 wires and I don't need them anymore and I put them all up that it takes some time for 82, you know, 80, 79, 75. And then usually the thing is that usually then those high quantity items. I looked into this when I looked into the whole flea market botting thing that everybody still thinks was a thing. And I feel like I was the only person screaming that everybody was wrong about that. But the large bulk sales, if they're large enough, kind of end up being sort of like the price floor, because what happens is everybody's always selling 1 ruble less. So the prices can kind of go all over the place.
They normally stop at the bulk order and then
they stop at the bulk order. So if you put yours up for sale for 50,000 rubles, somebody's going to go through and do 45. Then instantly there's also going to be people posting for 44.9, 44.999, 44.998, 44.997, and all these are going to keep selling. And then eventually someone might come in and sell 10 for 40,000. Then all of a sudden it's going to be 39.99.
Yeah, really quickly. Yeah.
So it's this weird pseudo snapshot of like some sort of free market without really being a free market because of the costs associated with posting things.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wish something that came to mind was imagine if they had a flat, if there was a flat fee. Now, I came to this conclusion but it was bad, but I want to say it anyway, because sometimes talking through bad ideas, you can learn things.
100%.
Originally, I was thinking, what if it was always 150,000 rubles as a fee to sell something on the flea?
Oh.
Theoretically speaking, it would be like, well, now it's not worth selling bolts because nobody's going to pay, because they're not worth it. The problem is that because of inflation and the fact that money has value, and these things, people value their convenience and their time rather than trying and failing to not be able to get a thing. They would pay 100. All you would be doing is tacking 150,000 rubles onto the price of every item, and they would still sell on the flea market exactly like they are now. But yeah, that's because everything has value, and the like unstated value is how much of my life am I going to not be able to, am I not going to be able to enjoy with my friends and family that I'm going to have to spend trying to get this in Tarkov any other way. Yeah,
I don't know, man. I think I think like I think there's an argument to be made that if you start there, if you say, hey, you can only put 3 things on the flea market in a 24-hour period, then we go back and we redo what's all purchasable from the traders, and then we go back and we change the loot economy of things in raid, and we make more things findable in raid, less things sellable from the traders, and then it kind of forces us into this, like, the flea market. The more things you shove as a potential spawn in raid, the less common any one of those things is, right? Because like you might have like in a weapon box, in a black weapon box, maybe there's a 10% chance for a scope to spawn in, or an optic of any kind. If only 14 optics are in the loot pool, well, then you have a 10% chance of finding one of those 14 optics. But if all 200 optics are in the game, well, then you only have a 10% chance. You still have the same percent chance to find an optic, but less percent chance that you'd find a voodoo, which is the optic you want. So if we put more things in raid, then each of those things kind of pseudos become rarer, and then we would use more things. We would use more optics. We'd use more of the off optics and stuff like that. Maybe you find a voodoo and you want to choose to put that on the flea market for 150,000 rubles because you're like, I know they're rare. And so I feel like that at least is a start to something more similar to what Nikita was talking about, where what you put up matters. That means it drives the price of something up, and you might want to buy those things less frequently. And then if there are more things to find in raid and you don't have the money to buy the exact thing you want because of how expensive it is, you're more inclined to use the alternates, because a lot of times the alternates are either not available or just as expensive. And then you're in this like, why not run a voodoo? Why not run a whatever? But if you had found a bunch of optics and you were looking for a voodoo, but you got some TAC 30s or you got some L cans and the voodoos are 200,000 rubles in the flea market, well, now you might use those things a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, what goes through my mind during these conversations is the nostalgic memory I have of first getting into Tarkov, being brand new, watching Smoke play, and I remember it taking him like 2 weeks to find the alkaline he needed for the quest. This was like 4 years ago, 5 years ago or something. And him just having to repeatedly go to Shoreline, I think, because there was like 1 or 2 places that it would spawn. Yeah. So and having him just repeatedly go there to try to find it because it was the thing he needed for the quest, and how that, coupled with the fact that he also used to go in with, he would have like a Vepr, and he would take the stock off. Yeah, and the dust cover. The dust cover, and he would take the handguard off and put one of the handguards with like rails on it, but nothing on the rails. And he would go through and he would loot. For sure. he would loot all the weapon boxes, and there was, first of all, there was like 3 maps at the time, and none of the maps had expansions, and there was just much less. He would go through, loot everything on the map, and he would come away with a couple of magazines. He'd have a hand grip, like a foregrip, a stock, and like a flashlight on his gun. He'd build the gun in raid, mod it in raid, and he would be looking for the alkali. And it would just, there was no reason to pick up, like, there was lighters and cigarettes and stuff in the game then, but they weren't used for anything.
Yeah.
So there was never any reason to pick it up. It was mostly just placeholder, lore kind of stuff. But now, you can just pick up everything all over the place in random spots.
Yeah.
See, when I mentioned the alkali, like, I feel like there's a couple different things. One, I think being a little bit more intentional about where stuff spawns and making it maybe be obvious, and or I don't know if they could communicate it in the game, or if this would just be something that they'd have to, crowdsource, put in the wiki, data mine, whatever but like, if you knew that these 2 places, this one place on Shoreline and this one place on Reserve, is the only place that alkali will spawn. So you'd go there and you'd be doing runs to try to, it was like, how you'd go try to find red key card. In this case, you'd know where to go. You'd have a reason to go there.
Yeah.
Because everybody's always going to be looking for like this particular item. So you have a shopping list of, I need these 4 things. They spawn in these locations.
Yeah.
Then you have a reason to go anywhere, and you could be intentional about it. You'd be rewarded for having a little bit of knowledge. Maybe they could put lore all over the place, where it was like, you pick up a flyer that you can read in game, or whatever, that is basically like, come to Ollie, we're having a sale on Tashanka and croutons. And you're like, oh, I'm on that quest where I need to get those things. Holy shit. And you'd know where to go. It wouldn't just be in every random box in every random container. And then couple that with the idea of quest items. I still think the game would just be infinitely better if none of the quest items were items.
I know exactly what you're
talking about. If they were all just like gold pocket watch.
Like,
why do they need to link? The only reason why Found in Raid needed to be added to the game was because the flea market made it so that you could trade quest items.
Yeah, you could buy your Saluas for your quest, then your Morphines for your quest, then your 3M armor for your quest, then your flash drives for your quest, and you were at endgame quests 30 minutes into the wipe. You know what I mean? Like, the first wipe, I think it was level 5 access to the flea market. It wasn't 15, it wasn't 20, it was like 5 that first wipe it happened. It was crazy.
Well, no, there was no
Yeah,
limit.
maybe actually I think you're right. It was just like you could spawn in and start. So, yeah.
Yeah, how else do you think Pets got level 40 in a day or whatever?
That's the thing, though, is that like the game does a decent job of that, what you're talking about, except for the fact that you can still kind of find everything in any container, and the fact that the flea market exists. But like, there's a lot of areas like that, like, you know what I mean? And it's actually cool because Twitch chat, kind of the hive mind of it really knows. If somebody comes into my chat and it goes, "Where's the best place to find fuel conditioners?" People will be like,
that's the one thing I will trust Twitch chat on, is when they tell me where to, because they're all loot goblins.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that like a lot of times people won't say, because especially if they need a founded raid, they won't be like, just loot duffel bags. People will be like, oh, there's a bunch of technical supply crates in the underground bunker of Reserve. There's these there. Oh, you need that? Go to Woods. The forward operating base, dude, has all that kind of stuff. There is a lot of that in the game, but you can get lucky with anything from a duffel bag, which kind of breaks that immersion a little bit, because you can just like, let me suit this random duffel bag. And then the flea market exists, so if you don't need it found in raid, you can just buy it off the flea market. But
the student desks have Tashanka on them.
Yeah, exactly. The Shoreline, the first floor of Shoreline, the whole sanatorium, that's all where the medical stuff is. There's so many of
That's where the only place you could get Saluas back in the day was you had to go to West Wing first floor.
Yeah. And there's so many the orange medical crates there. Crack House is a little medical thing. That whole medical stuff. There's medical stuff everywhere. The game does a really good job of that, of actually like placing the loot where it's supposed to go. But in addition to that, it has a few containers. Duffel bags is a great example, that are everywhere, that can spawn anything. And then that plus the flea market means you don't really have to do that if you don't want to. So if they maybe tweak the duffel bag loot, where like duffel bags are everywhere, but it's a smaller loot pool, and then maybe did some of these ideas with the flea market, then it would really kind of give off that vibe again. Obviously, ammo, weapons, and weapon attachments are where I see the most need is. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, what weapons can you find in raid? You know what I mean? Like Ketters, a stock M4, a stock MP5, and a stock AK. That's kind of it. What kind of attachments can you find in raid? Unless you get really lucky out of a stash, it's really kind of the same stuff over and over again. I'd like there to be like that type of thing, but with weapons. We've talked in the past a million times about like, if you open the weapon testing locker room in labs, there should be too many weapons for you to take. You should pick your favorite ones, since you can't sell them on the flea market anyway. If there were 3 RSASs and 2 SR25s and that in there, you can't sell any of those guns on the flea market. You'd kind of pick which ones you'd want. It's a literal weapon testing room, and there's that all over.
Runs where you'd go buy guns, like JLK videos.
100%, dude. Yes.
Yeah, we're going on a gun run. We're going on a fuel run. We're going like every other RPG, MMO, whatever. You're like, I need to go farm dust, or let me go to. I need runes. Let me go. Do forge runs or whatever right.
And then if you removed, if like you said, all the quest items were just like the golden Zippo, right, or the thing in the forklift, the golden pocket watch. If all the quest items like that, you could then retroactively go back and use keys as a way to push people around the maps as well. I've made a video about this before. If all keys, not all, if most keys in the game were either 1 or 3 times use, then you wouldn't be power running one place over and over again. As you're playing the game, you're finding all these keys, and you'd then go, oh, I'm out of guns and I'm out of meds. I have 4 shoreline keys. I can do 3 or 4 really solid shoreline runs, and then on your shoreline runs, you find 2 reserve keys, and then you get a wow. And making the keys more limited, but then buffing their spawns doesn't mess with your quests, because if the quest items were unrelated, and now the game is telling you where to go when you need things. You're finding things in raid that then push you to other maps because you might go find valuable loot there. And it's like, this is where, at least in my brain, it starts to become the Tarkov that we thought it would be all those years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, imagine there was all these different places where endless sources of things that didn't change the gameplay at all, but they changed quality of life, i.e. bolts and nuts, right? Like, those items do not translate into combat differences, but they translate into millions of rubles, which translates into more guns, right? Yes. But if you basically make it so that the flea market, so first make it so that most of the quest items, maybe they're like weapon builds, those types of things, or but a lot of quests don't necessarily have to be items. But
yeah,
if they're all pocket watches and Zibbo, the fake non-item items, well, then you don't have to worry about RMT through quests. You don't have to worry about buying your way through quests to the flea market.
Yep.
Then you can make it so that they spawn every time, so there's less RNG, so that the people who are casual and only get to play for 1 or 2 raids a week or whatever don't have to roll the dice. Yep. They actually have if they're the greatest player in the world and they have time for 1 raid, they should be able to succeed at the quests they're doing.
Yep.
It's not just a randomized fest. And then also, imagine capturing outposts. When capturing outposts, you could say, when there's another quest that is, go pick up my golden switchblade, it's at the pier in my office in the top desk. That's where I left it, because that's where I worked. Oh, well, now PMCs are going to go to the pier. So now you don't have to wait 300 years to try to do that. So there's intelligent, thoughtful design around the quests. They literally can make other bad quests better. Like, they synergize with each other. And make people go to a place and then have another quest that says kill people that are going to a place.
Yeah. And that's actually a really good point as well about like the I feel like a fundamental misunderstanding of, like, we've heard BSG say many times they want to slow down progression. And they tie that to how stupid the quests can be. Because the stupider they are, the harder they are to complete, and that slows down progression. But that's actually not fair, like you said, to the people that only have a few raids to play. If the quests were more locked in like that, where it's like, if it's go find 3 morphines for this quest, then they're golden morphines and they're always here, and you can go accomplish that task. But then if the rest of the game actually tells us to go around and do these other things, the game is more replayable. And if there just isn't instant access to everything all the time, well, then people aren't climbing their way to billions of rubles all the time. So it's like you can kind of have both of that, where like the quests are doable and not like this like disgusting RNG fest, but also people aren't flying through and just like making a billion rubles at the same time. I feel like they've linked those things unfairly. People have millions of like level is largely irrelevant outside of like what you get from the traders. You know what I mean? So like, and with the flea market, it means you can get a lot of that stuff. So it's like, it's not fair to say the best way to slow down progression is to make all the quests stupid when at level 1, on day 1 of the wipe, I can scav into Lighthouse and make 2 million rubles. Like the first thing, if you get lucky, the first thing you do in the entire wipe, if you spawn with an M700 and attack 30 on your scav, ignore your PMC, go Lighthouse, and if you get lucky, and not even that lucky, you can walk out of there with 2 million, with easily $1 million worth of vendorable stuff. Money. That had nothing to do with how arbitrary capturing outposts was. That has nothing to do with them nerfing the spawn of, let's say, fuel conditioners to make the fuel conditioner quest harder. This idea that like we want to slow down progression, and that has nothing to do with changing like the loot and how much, like, you know what I mean? That they put a lot of that on the quests and just making them harder and more of a drudge and a grind. It's like you're hurting the people who are newer to the game, who really struggle with these quests, and the people that know how to farm the rogues and farm Lighthouse aren't that affected because by level 15, they've got 5 or 6 million rubles and all the gear they can imagine off. You know what I mean? Like it's, yeah.
Dude, think about the difference in perspective. The difference in, I don't know, like the difference between these two things. We are going to make, the quests where you get alkali, we are going to make that harder by making it spawn less in the world and requiring that you need twice as many.
Yeah.
And requiring that it's found in raid. Versus we are going to make the quests harder by putting more well-designed challenging AI around the area and incentivizing players to go there for other reasons.
Yes.
Think about just conceptually how those are completely two different worldviews.
Yeah.
And the second one is it's the kind of worldview I've been crying about for years that I wish they had, but they always go the other way and they say, oh, okay, we're going to make it so that you need 7 at nighttime while your PMC's not wearing anything on a Monday. And it needs to be 1 found in raid, 1 needs to be crafted while your leg's broken.
Yeah.
Just kidding. You need 1 more now because people said it was too easy. Oh, now everybody's complaining? Okay, well then I guess you can do it between the times of noon and 4 p.m. Instead of just
feels like
PM.
it feels like different departments that don't talk to each other. Like the hideout department and the quest department are different. And so like the quest department makes something where like this quest is too easy and they make it harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. And then the outcry of the fact that the fuel conditioners just don't spawn anywhere finally bubbles its way to the hideout department and they go, oh, we can fix that. We can make a craft for it. It's like they're not even talking to each other because then it just completely circumnavigates. They did that with gas analyzers.
I don't know that it's to me these aren't decisions that like inter teams should make. It's Nikita.
Oh yeah, no, but I'm saying it feels like it presents itself to us in like these ways where these guys aren't talking to each other because they did that with gas analyzers. Gas analyzers didn't used to be that hard to find, but they were kind of hard to find, and then they made them so ridiculously, stupidly hard to find.
Well, no, they used to be hard before your time.
Well, they were always
they were hard to find.
They were always hard to find
because there was no flea market.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. They were always hard to find. And then they were easy because you could buy them off the flea market. And then they made found and raid and they were hard to find. And then there was that wipe where they made them like impossible to find. It was like level 28 before I completed that quest. And then 3 months into that wipe, they made a craft for them.
Yep.
And it was like, and there's still a craft for gas analyzers to this day. And so it's like, now they're not hard to find. They're expensive. But those are different things.
And expensive
you know what I mean?
is
Like,
largely irrelevant for most people who, because it's really easy to play the game in a way that Nikita doesn't want people to play the game to make infinite money.
Yeah.
So again, it's like he's incentivizing people to do the things that he is trying to, in other places, incentivize them away from doing by incentivizing people away from doing other things by it's just it's chasing bad.
Exactly.
With
so that's what I'm saying is that like that kind of pulls us full circle. It's like, yes, the flea market is obviously a big part of the wealth that is distributed in this game, but it's not the only part. And I feel like I want to hear them say that, you know what I mean? Because he says he wants it to be hard. He says he hates people being rich. He says that he wants, you know, not to be so much wealth moved around, but it's like, you know, it would be a great account to prove a point would be just like just not hardcore, just no flea market. How much money could Gingy make or J-Bebe make or Sheaf make with all the same rules and no flea market? If when freaking J-Bebe's got 48 million rubles by the time he's level 45, that should prove a point that yes, of course the flea market is a part of the problem, but it's like, it's not the only part of the problem. Like if you want people to be poorer, stop spawning 10 million rubles worth of loot every lighthouse raid.
Well, but wait a minute. Let's not forget here. Why is having a lot of money a problem?
Oh, because then we can buy anything we want. Or most of the things we want.
Well, but who cares? The things that are on the traders, let them buy as many as they want. Oh, it's because on the flea market you can buy whatever you want. That's the only reason. The only reason why a lot of money is a problem is because you have things to spend it on. Back in the day, the richest player, if you go back to one of my earliest vids, it's called 56 sets of Ford armor is like the thumbnail, I think, or the title. I had it was the epitome of, and part of this is why I play the way I play now. And if you watch me, you watch Deadly Slob, you watch Smoke, none of them have 50 million rubles.
Yeah.
They're all like me. We've got 1.2 million rubles and everything we need in our stash.
Yes.
It's because back in the day, there was nothing to...
Yeah.
Therapist had 6 items for sale, and that was it. Pradpour had 3 guns for sale, and that was it. And there was no flea market.
Yeah.
So there was no point in having lots of money.
Yeah.
But when you look at my stash, it was the, Giga Chad, ultimate rat loot hoarder, where it's item case, and inside of the item case is 4 Ford armors.
Yeah.
Because there was no thick item case. It was item case stacked all the way, and then in the middle, in the 2 wide slot down the middle, because there was item cases on the left and right side, and the stash had 1 strip down the middle, and it was Fast MT with the mandible and the ears with NVGs, not the quad knot. Wait, I don't think the quad nods were in the game. No, the quad nods weren't in the game. Just the standard 3-piece PVS or whatever the hell.
Yep.
And it was just that all the way down. It was just Ford armors and Fast MTs
and M4s
and Bitcoin. And just like I would make patterns with Bitcoin. I would do logos, and I'd have
that is a great point, because what's the Giga Chad stash now? It's 4 thick items cases and literally nothing else in your stash. That's like the Chad stash is to have 4 to 6 thick items cases and nothing, literally nothing but 100 million rubles. But
the junk that you're going to control click out of your backpack every raid.
Exactly.
It's the sorting table.
Because then you can just buy everything. But once again, your point is that it's not just the flea market that's the problem. It's that I can buy any gun. Like right now, all of the best guns in the game are not purchasable on the flea market. A large portion of the attachments and stuff like that are not purchasable. It's that they're all purchasable from the traders. And like you said, your point that definitely still stands, that like back then you couldn't buy anything from the traders. So when you found a dude with a kitted M4, it's you knew that he bought all of the best stuff he could buy from the traders, then found a bunch of better stuff, put it on the M4. You killed him and you were like, this is a meta M4. I'm going to take it and I'm going to save it because I can't do that. Right now, the meta is just to like strip off the 1 or 2 attachments that are hard to find and then vendor the rest, even if it's a meta M4, because you can get 10 versions of that, every time. So it's exactly that. It's like it's even still not just the flea market being a problem. It's that like you can buy so much from the traders, and it's just, yeah, it's weird. It's interesting. I never thought about that the Chad stash before was as full of a stash as possible. And the Chad stash
it was three
now,
tiny stacks of money.
Yeah, is as empty of a stash as possible and as much money as possible.
Yeah. I mean, although this is maybe, honestly, but just because I haven't been playing a bunch very recently, and then also haven't been watching a lot of Tarkov content, to see like what Giga Chad stashes look like. It wasn't long ago where the Giga Chad stash was thick item case full of broken down one height meta HK with the grip right next to it. Just weapon case ammo cases full of stacks of 995 to where you had infinite. Even though things were limited. But because of the flea market and the fact that you could, sell whatever, then it was infinite, right? You could only buy one at a time from the traders, yet somehow everybody always had an infinite number of everything that they could ever want. There was no scarcity. And so
bro, I would pay money to get an ETS, an early test servers. They say, if you're on ETS and we wiped your accounts, just play up to level, like 20 or 30 if you want. You can only sell 2 things on the flea market a day. And we've removed level 4 traders from all of them. You can only go up to level 3. Like, you can't buy the 60 round mags or the 40 round MP7 mags or all those best ammos. You can't buy those things. Maybe they messed with the loot. Maybe they didn't, just to prove a point. Maybe they didn't. Like, I would just love, I'm not saying it would be good. I'm not saying it would be the good old days. I'm saying I'd love to try it. I'd love to try where the best stuff in the game, the best guns, the best attachments aren't purchasable from the traders even. And then they restrict the flea market a little bit as well. Like, I'm not saying it's a perfect idea. I'm just saying, what would that wipe be? What would that be?
No, it would be better than it is today.
Yeah.
It would be better than it is today. Someone in chat's saying RMT. There's no people are not going to RMT for items to get their favorite build. They're going to RMT for things they would never ever have a chance to get ever. And if things were more common in raid, then it's much more likely.
Yeah, you're going to find the thing. Yeah,
exactly. The only way that you're ever going to get an RSAS today is if you buy it or barter for it from a trader or buy it from the flea market. The normal average Timmy is not going to make it to 216 West Wing or wherever the room is, to the bed spawn, the one bed spawn, grab the RSAS, the rare chance it spawns, and make it out with it.
Yeah, I mean, like, maybe I'm wrong, but I agree. You know what I mean? Like, especially since, like, let's say you can't buy SR25s, mutants, RD704s, RSASs, 308 MDRs, all these meta, you can't buy them from the traders anymore, but they spawn in raids, they spawn in caches, and they spawn in these weapon rooms. Like, would you RMT that stuff? Like, would you risk your account? Would you risk that? Like, I don't know, like, would you RMT an SR25 when you could buy an RFB and probably find an SR25? Like, once again, I feel like people don't understand what I want. It's not, it's not you can't get anything. It's that you have things, but they are limited. It's not that I don't ever want people to see SR25s. I'm okay. I'm okay if, like, I'm okay with what you said back in the day. I'm okay if you had 10 SR25s in your stash. I just want to know that the way you found that SR20 was you found it in a raid, or you killed a guy with it and then you took it. You couldn't just buy it. So maybe you stack up a bunch because you like them. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not saying I don't want people to have stuff. Would you RMT as an SR25 if you had found a 308 MDR the other day and you had an RSAS from a guy you killed? It's just...
No, so think about it. The way it works today is that 95% of the meta guns are in the hands of like 5% of the player base and for sale on the flea market. Where and that's because of the way the game is now. They could make it so that... I'm trying to figure out like the right way to like metaphorize this. Make it so that any individual person is more likely to come across a good gun in raid and to make it out with that good gun and be able to use it. And the alternative is not even vendor it to the traders.
Yeah.
Like, use the thing.
Exactly. That's the thing.
Imagine if you can't sell the RSAS on the flea, you can't even sell the RSAS to the traders. You had to use it.
Yeah, I'm okay with selling it to the traders, but exactly your point, you hit the nail on the head. Is I don't want people to never find things. It's that right now, when you find the thing, the most efficient thing to do is leave it behind and just take the attachments off of it, or to just immediately sell it because it's not worth taking up the stash space because you know you can just get one later. So what I want is that you find things, but you're incentivized to keep the thing and then use it. It's okay. Yeah. I would still want to come across people with SR25s and M4s, and there'd be more build diversity because of this. But right now, it's not even worth the stash space it takes up because you can just buy 3 of them every hour. And if you're decent at the game, you're probably not going through more than 3 to 5 kits an hour. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's what I'm saying is like people, every time I talk about this kind of stuff, they're like, they assume that just means nobody will have anything and everybody will have to buy everything off of RMT. And it's
no. And that's the point I was trying to make, that I don't know why it's hard to explain what I mean.
Yeah.
There's my vision for, all of the things combined would be on any given raid, you'd be much more likely to find like an HK or an RSAS or whatever, but there's a world in which people finding really sick, like top tier guns is more common.
Yes.
But you can't get anything you want at any times.
I'm there with you. I'm there with you though. Yeah.
What I want is for, how do I explain this? Like, this is so frustrating when I have something in my head and I can't I keep trying to come up with it's not every 1 out of 5 PMCs has all the guns. It's
everybody has a part of the guns. Yeah. It's exactly that. It's, once again, if you're incentivized to keep and use something because you can't get it whenever you want, then you would maybe run into more meta guns because people were
but that's not my point. What I'm talking about actually has nothing to do with people using them, and it has nothing to do with selling to traders. It's more about taking it off the flea market and then distributing items on the map.
Mm-hmm.
and what that means for any individual person's exposure to those number of items.
Yeah.
Right? Like right now, can you go and buy an RSAS on the flea market?
No. Most of the best guns you can't. But you can buy them from the trader. So effectively, you can buy them whenever you want. If you're max level. Yeah, so
I think the world would be a better place if... What about HKs? Can you buy those on the flea market? They took it's hard for me to keep track of what they do.
But you can buy an HK and all the parts you need for a meta HK from the traders.
Yeah, so if it was like 100 times more likely that you could get an RSAS in any individual gun spawn today, but it wasn't on the traders, and it wasn't on the flea market, then that means literally anybody at any time could come across this sick gun for free. You get the benefit from it if you're able to survive and take it out with you. Then you can use it, you can sell it to the traders, like do whatever you want. But you have a weird world in which like there's like less guns, but they're more common. I again, it's hard for me to describe it. Just think about, there's the individual availability for a person, a normal person, and then there's the actual supply available to anybody with unlimited resources. I'll at some point maybe I'll come up with a like metaphor that puts that succinctly. But but yeah, I mean, all the things about quests, the flea market, traders, found in raid, all of those things can and should all change. Take all of the really good attachments that are, I don't know, are attachments rare, or the good attachments rare in Raid?
In Raid, yeah.
So then make them much more common in Raid. Three ideas. Make all of the really good attachments much more rare in Raid. Make it so that the traders don't have any of the attachments.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a few base guns, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And then you...
No, yeah.
There's so many knobs to
yeah,
like
for sure.
turn.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing is that, yes, there's so many knobs to turn, but I don't think that should dissuade us from having the conversation, because that's what like maybe it's just connecting, but this is exactly what I've been trying to say for like weeks now. Is exactly that. Is it's you remove the high tier guns from the traders, you place them as actually spawnable in Raid, and the attachments. Like I went on this whole tangent a few weeks ago about how I was like, freaking take the voodoos away. I was like, I love the voodoo. I use the voodoo all the time, but like it's too stupidly available. If it was only found in Raid and you couldn't get off the flea market, then there's a decision to be made. Right now there is no decision to be made. It's I want the best thing for my level. Right? You know what I mean? So it's an and when you get to max traders, it's just, you can get a mutant, you can get a mutant from the traders, you can get an RD704 from the traders, you can get a 308 MDR from the traders, you can get an SR25 from the traders, you can barter for an RSAS with dog tags from the traders, you can get the Thunder Beast suppressor from the traders, you can buy the PWS suppressor from the traders, you can buy the Voodoo and the Vortex optic from the traders. So when I go into a raid, I'm not thinking about what's the best thing I can build with what I have, going back to what you said about like having that full stash. Like, what's the best thing I can build with what I have? I'm going in saying, which gun do I want to purchase right now? And then immediately after purchase all the best attachments to make it best in slot. And what's crazy is that the flea market doesn't play a part in that transaction anymore. What's crazy is that, remember, I made that whole stink about civilian flea. I'm not saying that they watched my video, but then they did some pseudo civilian flea. A lot of the armors and a lot of the guns you can't buy on the trader anymore. And they're no less common. They're just more expensive. You used to be able to get an RD704 for 70,000 rubles from the flea market. They took it away from the flea market. Now you just get it for 150,000 rubles. But they're no less common in Raid from level 40 and above, because they can still buy, like when you think about how many meta guns there are, Mutant, RD704, 308 MDR, SR25, you can buy all of them. Some of them you can buy multiple in a 3-hour reset. And if you're good at the game, you're not getting through that many guns on the reset in a 3-hour reset. So they're all still infinitely available, even without the flea. Even without the flea. And nobody's really talking about that like the traders play such a huge part in this. So yes, there's a million knobs to tune, and we wouldn't get it right at first, but I'm all for it. It's like, take those things off the traders, put them then as more common in Raid, for sure. But then when I die with my favorite gun, I feel it. It means something to me. That's part of the thing, is like we're all chasing the high. When you're at the top end, nobody feels that high anymore, because it's like you used to die and you'd be like, oh, that was my favorite M4. That was the best one I have. And now you're like, oh, I hate this game. I'm going to go build that exact same gun.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if there was an infinite supply of Bastion AK top rails and the tri-rail foregrips for the AKs.
Yeah.
And then now imagine that you have to get your AKs and the ammo.
Yeah.
And the extended magazines.
Yeah.
In Raid. Now think about 30 round AK mags. Let's just use that as an example. As a level 14, I'm just about to hit 15, and then the game is going to completely change. But like, finding 30 round AK mags is like gold for me right now.
Yeah.
Because one of the guns I can buy is like a Vepr, but having a 10 round mag versus a 30 round mag, it's whether or not I can beat a 3-man or not.
Yeah.
It completely changes the game. So, but then, once I get level 2 prop port or whatever, well, now 30 round mags are a dime a dozen. They don't matter anymore, blah, blah, blah. But imagine if all mechanics sold was a bunch of very specific attachments, like a rail, a front rail system, with like the 3-inch rail or the 6-inch rail. And then it's like, okay, cool. You want to use foregrips and lights and lasers and stuff. You're going to have to use what you find. Then think about now the number of gun builds you see is not going to be 4. It's going to be 400,927,000 because it's procedural generation.
All the things we don't want all the things we don't want to be findable in a container: gas blocks, 2.5-inch rail, 3.5-inch rail, 4.5-inch rail. Put all that on the trader because you can't do anything with it unless you have the other piece. Put the flashlights and all the good lasers in raid. Put the good attachments in raid.
You're not going to see the same gun build twice,
yes,
dude.
You won't. And you know what's crazy? You know what's freaking crazy? Is that what this does is it compresses things. It makes things, if you're a Chad right now, this makes it harder for you to get meta stuff. If you're new to the game, it makes it easier.
Yep.
Right now, if you're level...
you actually have a chance of getting it.
Finding it. If you're level 9 and this is your first wipe...
That's what I meant.
And this is your first wipe, there's no way you're getting your hands on a meta SR25 unless you get lucky with like a grenade throw, right? But you're not buying that thing. If it's your first wipe, you're probably not going to get to level 42. You're probably not going to unlock the quest that requires you to be able to purchase the SR25 off the flea. I don't know if it's a quest, but a lot of the high tier guns and stuff like that do have quests. So you'll never see this stuff and you just get stomped by it. So now, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of times when the newer people or people that don't have as much time to play here, we want to restrict the amount of things you can get. They tense up because they're like, I can already not get the thing. But that's why it's like, think about it differently. If we remove the unlimited access from the traders, but then place these items way more common in raid, that means the level 50 will be able to run an RD704 orders of magnitude less than they do right now, but it means you'll find more RD704s in raid. And then you might use it because earlier you found this cool suppressor and you bought this red dot off the traders.
Yeah, there's no reason for you not to use it.
Yeah.
Because now it's, do I use a thing that I'm going to die with instantly and get nothing?
Yeah.
Or do I sell it for a guaranteed price on the flea market or to a trader? Right now, the only reason why lots of money or having lots of money is a problem is because you can too easily buy the experience that you want.
Yes.
Or at least buy very specific aspects of the experience. I want a gun that feels familiar, that does a lot of damage, blah, blah, blah. Whereas, think about it. Like, the reason why new players want a lot of money is so that they can buy the gear without worrying about the perceived felt loss of dying without using it or dying. Yeah. So instead the gear fear is like a big aspect of that, and that they don't want to use the thing, they don't want to lose it. A lot of times they just will sell it on the flea because they'd rather have the money because they're not going to get their money's worth or whatever. But like, if you think about it, finding the good and using cool, interesting, fun stuff, it's so much more of the point of the game than getting the money to be able to build a very specific, like, sanitized experience that is exactly what you want. When new players are if you're just as likely when you walk into this room that you have the key for to have a cool gun be on the wall. If you're just as likely to be able to have that, find, use, have whatever that gun as anyone else, well, now it's so different than it is now. Which is like those people, the more casual players, I find, at least in my experience from talking with them and my experience of being one when I was new to the game,
well, yeah, I mean, once again, a part of gear fear as a casual player is right now, if you do get a lucky VOG on somebody, or you do get a lucky snipe on a guy with like a meta mutant, right? You're like, this might be the only one I find the whole wipe. So there's that gear fear aspect. But if you found, like, if you kept this cool mutant, but then you found another one, and you found another one, you found, like, you know what I mean? You're building these pathways in your brain, like, oh, maybe I should use this cool thing. Use the good stuff you have because it increases your chances of living. And if you die, you might actually find this thing again. But right now, it's like, unless you can guarantee yourself you're going to get to level 42, max level traders, and have the ability to buy this stuff, then you might not ever see that again. So, like, why use it? And going back to what you were saying about, like, that, like, when you were saying, like, that's the Tarkov experience, you know what I mean? The Tarkov experience is so disproportionately on the weapon than the other stuff, than the helmet, than the armor, than the backpack and stuff like that. Because that, like, when you think about what the labs meta became when you were like, kind of towards the tail end of what you were playing, it was mutant, rat rig, shattered mask. It was spend as little on the armor as possible and just use the best gun, right? Because like when you're at that point, or 308 MDR, when you're at that point when you're running up against 308 MDRs with M61, armor doesn't matter. Armor doesn't matter. You just want the ricochet chance on the shattered mask, right? And then you want to be, you know, saved from buckshot on a scav or a rip slug, so you get the class 4 armor. So it's like, it's so, this experience so disproportionately hinges on weapons, and these are the things that we have in the greatest quantity, by the way. Right now, slicks are really, really hard to come by because you need 3 trooper armors, 4 corduras, 6 rip stops, and the quantity, the amount of slicks you can get on a reset is so low that a slick that barter sells out on the reset in 3 seconds. So I can never get a slick.
And yet today, I in one of my customs runs, I was like marking some tankers or something, doing literally nothing, didn't get in any fights with any players, and then on the way out was kind of like, nah, I think I'm just gonna stop at on the road. There's that dead scav, like leaning up against the car, that like hard spawn, and he had a slick. Yeah. And it was like, oh god, people are gonna think I have an item radar, because I literally walked to one container in the whole map, and there was and I'm like, well, but like, okay, you
know what I'm saying? So like that slick, when people have access to M61, it's that like it does very little for you. Obviously, you're not always running in people with M61, but like the labs is an example. But the M61 and the gun that shoots the M61, I can get basically anytime I want. At any point during the reset, I can be like, oh, do I have enough M61? And I can control click and I just, you know, buy it off the trader. So it's like when you think about the Tarkov experience and how much of it rests on the weapon and the ammo, and then the weapons and the ammo at high tier trader are the most available compared to like armors and other stuff like that. I run out of, I can't buy trizips anymore. You know what I mean? But I can buy like a mutant or whatever. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I can already tell that if Twitch chat is misunderstanding, then the YouTube comments are going to be misunderstanding even more. When we say we want things to be more common, you know what people think? They think that they're gonna see 5 times as many of that item now. But think about what we're saying. Just imagine a world where remove all the guns. I'm not proposing this. This is a thought experiment for the sake of demonstration. Imagine that rather than having 80% of the guns that are in the game being purchasable on traders, with a limit of 2 per person or 3 per person, which is literally like enough for anybody to pretty much run them all the time. The ammo limits are different.
Yeah.
But think about now, how many weapon spawns are there, let's say, on customs? Like not that many.
Yeah.
Like other than the fact that some of them can spawn in crates.
Yeah.
Think about like the static weapon spawns, like the one on the bed in Shoreline or the Kibba ones on the wall. Imagine if those kinds of things were more often, but those builds were totally random, procedurally generated, to where it could be a gun missing a stock and no handguard, or it could be an RSAS with a light on it and then a bottom rail but no foregrip and like an ACOG. Or it could be like the infinite number of things. And then, so think about it. Imagine there were a few of those spots on the map, a few static gun spots. The fact that if we added 4 static gun spots to customs, how many guns are there in the game?
Yeah. Yep.
So now your chances of finding an RSAS is 1 out of the number of guns in the game. What that means is removing it from the traders and from the flea, the people who were like the newbies who were never going to use an RSAS, they weren't going to buy it from the traders and build it because they don't have access to it. But the Chads will buy it and build it every time and build, whatever, because there's no limit and they have infinite money. But then imagine if there's 1 in every 50 raids or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Then you're going to come across an RSAS. And now it's like the RSAS becomes like it's what I meant when I meant like more common but more rare.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll be an RSAS, sometimes it'll be an HK, sometimes it'll be an M1, sometimes it'll be a Vepr Hunter or whatever. But having a diversity of things,
yes, it's exactly
that spawn more often, it means that any individual person is able to find person is able to find a cool gun and use it more often.
But that cool gun
than
isn't
they do now.
Repeatable. I.e. the flea market, or i.e. the traders. Exactly.
But everybody you kill is going to have a different gun. There's going to be more RSASs in the economy.
Exactly.
Sorry, not in the economy. In raids.
Yeah.
Right now, the number of things in the economy is infinite.
Yeah.
But you see 4 things used in raid.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about flips that totally on the upside. So that's what I mean when I say more common
but more rare. I am so rare. Tracking with you, but I understand how people misunderstand it, because like in like using words like common, I want to make something more common. It's like, it's exactly what I was talking about earlier with optics. Right now, if I loot a black weapon crate, and it's like I have a 20% chance to spawn a weapon, but right now I can only spawn 20 weapons, Ketters, stock AKs, SKSs. If we add 20 more weapons onto that and then bump the spawn chance of weapons in crates by 5 or 10%, that makes RSASs infinitely more common, but not farmable. Not like you're gonna find RSASs all the time. It's exactly that. It means guns are more common, the amount of guns are more common, the builds on those guns are more varied, and it means that like exactly it means that ultimately you run stuff based on what you have, not just what you want at any minute. I just want to run this so I can run this. It's like I want to run an MP7, but I don't have any more. All right. Like so I'll run this and hope I find an MP7 today. And somebody earlier was like, somebody earlier in the chat was like, well, then people will just rat run to spots that spawn guns. And I'm like, how is that worse than being able to buy any gun you want at any moment without having to play the game? How is that worse? How is it worse going into raid with a lower tier kit because you don't have high tier kits and going to try and find kits? That's called replayability.
Yeah, going to you have to go find a gun, loot it in raid, and extract with it? How dare them?
That's called fixing the solution. That's called the solution to why wipes feel stale 10 minutes in, because you have everything you want, you can buy anything you want at any time, and you have no reason to go in and play raid except to stomp nerds, you know what I mean? But if you're limited in what you have, but you want other things, that's video games right there. That's good video games. I am limited on what I have, but unlimited in what I want. Why do you think people spent 700,000 hours playing WoW? Not because they already had all the raid gear, because they were trying to min-max the raid gear and get better stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean.
Oh, wait. But RMT. You're right. We shouldn't do anything to the game. We should actually, everybody should be credited 4 billion rubles every month. Because RMT, man. ...
Yeah. I don't God, I don't know. That's a whole other candle, bottle of wax, whatever the phrase is. I don't know, dude. I don't even want to get into RMT right now. But yeah, I mean, like, historically, one of the most annoying, people are talking about, oh, people are just gonna rat run, hatchet run to the gun spawns. It's like, that's an infinitely better world than it used to be, which is they would hatchet run for the Bitcoin spawn, put it in their protector case, and disconnect. It's like, at least now the guy who would normally run in with nothing and grab a thing, now he's at least gonna have a gun and I can shoot him and take it. You know, like, yeah. One of the last things I wanted to mention on that is, so I have done, I don't know how many raids, and I won't be able to launch the game before I'm done finishing this sentence, so that I'm not going to be able to come up with a number for how many raids I've done this wipe so far.
But if I were to make a guess,
14,
if I were to make a conjectured, an educated guess based on the amount of times you've played the game, this wipe, and you took some time off, you were playing things like Dragmania. So if you were going to guess how many raids, it would be, what do you think?
Well, it's exactly like, just continuing what you were going to say. like totally vibing. You absolutely understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
As if I was loading profile data and it was about to pop up. In my experience so far at level 14,
this many wipes in. So after you've played this many wipes, and then you've kind of know how much you've played each wipe and broken down like a raid per wipe average.
With 51 raids is the number of raids I played.
Yeah,
okay. I don't, dude, just let me. I'm trying to get a word in here, and you won't let me. 51 raids. How many of those raids do you think I had a magnified optic?
I don't know, man.
3 raids, and there were 3 of the best raids I had.
Yeah, for sure.
I went in and I built and you know why? I found a Valde in a weapon crate on customs, got to take it out, and I went and bought a Vepr, bought the top rail. The only reason why I bought the Vepr is because all of the Veprs I have 11% durability.
Yep.
So the half of the guns in the game are just unusable. So why would I spend money on modding a gun that's just gonna go click? Yep. You know. But that's a different solution and not a reason for this problem. But basically, I went in, tossed a grip, and put a rail on top, and then put the Valde in. It was like, now those raids, I felt instantly I could compete. So first of all, it touches on what we've talked about with the rarity of optics for one, which would again affect all combat, right? Like if you are the person, if 1 out of every 10 people has a Valde or a Voodoo or whatever, then that means that 9 of the people that you have fights against are going to be equivalent in terms of like their ability to see at whatever range, right?
Yeah.
But if 9 people have a Valde, then it's like impossible for the one guy who's level 3,
1,000,000%
with iron sights or with a MRS on the front rail, so that it's bouncing all around and you can't line up. When you have no strength and no stamina and your gun handling skills or whatever. So like the game is better. Imagine 2 raids with 10 people in it. One of them 9 have Valdes, and the other one has a Valde. I'll take the one with 1 has a Valde
all day.
Because for that one, it's sick and exciting.
Yep.
And for the other 9, it doesn't feel like dog shit.
Yep.
And when they kill the one, they got it and they're excited.
Yep.
So it's overall like the global happiness goes up because you still have, in every raid there's a Valde, you know, either on 1 or 2 PMCs or lootable, rather than every raid everybody has it. So yeah, I was like super stoked to find it, and then, you know, dying, it was almost like, okay, well, oh wait, I am level 15.
Pog.
I just got level 15, took 51 raids. Yeah, okay. Well, now I can just buy my way through everything. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I just totally got sidetracked by the fact that, like, oh, now my
no, I mean,
now the Tarkov experience I was just describing, that is in a way the experience for me. It like simultaneously is better, but then also is worse. If everybody was in the situation I'm in, which is we only have 1 Valde at our disposal every 2 days or whatever, then the game is infinitely better. And I just want to focus one more time on the fact that when we say there's 4 item spawns and you make an RSAS decently likely to spawn there just as much as every other gun, then you're not making it so that every other gun is the RSAS.
Yep.
It literally has the opposite effect of what I think a lot of people would instantly assume, because it could be a Vepr or an RSAS or an SKS, and it could be heavily modded, not modded, barely modded, unfinished, undone, unbuilt, like, whatever.
Yep.
There's always a chance for something cool, whereas now there's no chance of anything cool unless you survive the fight against the one guy that had the thing that he always has every raid.
Yeah, seriously, for sure. And yeah, exactly, more common doesn't mean it's the only thing you find all the time. and variety is the spice of life. And I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but this is my podcast, so I'm allowed to say stuff when I want. And then, I'm talking to Chad. It's our podcast.
And then change the subject.
Yeah, and then change the subject. But related to RMT, why do people buy stuff with real money? They buy stuff because they don't feel like they can get it in raid, or cannot put the time in to get it, and they think everybody else has it, and that puts them at a disadvantage. If you make that gear harder for the people that play all the time to get all the time, and easier for the people that play less to get, because right now you literally find 0 RSASs in weapon crates over the course of a wipe, but now you might find 5. That's not every other gun is an RSAS, but it's more RSASs. So if it means that you might actually find an M4 that's decently kitted, and the guys at the top can't just buy them every time they want one, wouldn't that mean there'd be at least a little bit less incentive to RMT?
It's like you said when you said compression. It brings the for people of it. You won't get it unless you already get
music,
it. So
yeah.
I guess there's no. But like it brings the bottom of the range up and the top of the range down.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Again, when I think maybe us, whatever, focusing on like RSAS, for example, might be part of what would confuse people, because we're not saying that the RSAS should spawn here. What we're saying is that any gun can spawn here.
Any gun.
So that means you are much more likely, you might not find the RSAS every time.
Yeah.
But it could be an HK. Either way, if you're the newbie, you are excited that there's a good gun.
Yeah, a good gun.
That there is a good gun there X% of the time. Yeah, it's not any individual item. It's just make everything.
Which also, exactly. God. So it makes it a little bit harder for the Chads, a little bit easier for the casuals, which is something I feel like everybody, I feel like if we started this conversation by saying, what if we proposed something that made it a little bit harder for the Chads and a little bit easier for everybody else? Everyone would have been like, hell yeah, you know what I mean? And then this is it. And I understand it's confusing. And additionally, for the Chads, doesn't the compression analogy also mean that the skill gap widens a little bit? That means that you have to be a little bit more reliant on your skill, your ability to maneuver through the maps and aim, as opposed to if you're in a raid with 20 level 3s and a voodoo, you know what I mean? But if you're in a raid with 10 level 3s, 4 of them have voodoos and you don't, that means, you know what I mean? It like the gear squishes, the skill gap widens a little bit, and it just feels like it answers a lot of the problems that people.
Yeah, and one of those things being the staleness of everything. When was the last time you saw a gun with an ACOG on it?
Yes.
I've seen a guns with ACOGs on them unironically like twice, because nobody's going to find the ACOG and the mount and then keep them both and then use them.
The last time I did, I killed them, and I was like talking about, I was like, oh, you never see ACOGs. They came into chat and they're like, oh yeah, we were using meme guns. And I was like, damn it, this is a meme gun. I wish it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like,
but imagine if, like I said, 20% of the players had an optic, but now the optic, it wasn't the same 2 optics.
Exactly.
It was one of 15 different optics.
Yep.
It was a voodoo or a hammer or
an Elcan.
The Elcan, or all of these different things that people rarely use now because they have access to whatever they want. They pick the quote unquote like best one. Yeah. So again, it just makes everything better. Now, you're talking about RMT, just like real quick, somebody sent me a DM. Well, there's 2 bits, because there's a lot of people that were commenting with the sentiment of anybody that does RMT, ban them, get rid of them, they're scum.
Mm-hmm.
And the sentiment separately of, if you play with a cheater, you should get banned. You're scum.
Mm-hmm.
And here's maybe they'll be unpopular. I don't know. I think if people actually listen to the words I'm saying and not just assume what I'm saying, that they have any amount of intellectual honesty, they'll at least see where I'm coming from and be more likely to agree with me. Imagine. And again, I'm telling this story based off of somebody who sent me a DM explaining their friend, and I'm paraphrasing and changing a couple of the details, but a guy you worked with was like an older guy, you know, not really the ultimate gamer. He's like 60,
yeah,
you know, but the kind of guy that's like, oh, I like military stuff. I like whatever. I'm going to, you know, get the game, check it out, play a little bit. And you're way behind the curve. You're just trying to, you know, figure your way out, maybe a little clumsy with the mouse and keyboard or whatever, right? You're playing a little bit, you're having fun, you're having drinks and cigars with the boys while you're playing your computer games. You come across at some point an ad for Tarkov rubles on a website that looks perfectly legitimate, and you go ahead and you buy some rubles because it's like no different than buying gems in a mobile game. The house, so many games have literally trained us to spend money for things in the game. You don't realize, again, you're not like a 20-year-old, 16-year-old TikTok enthusiast, internet expert. You're a cringy boomer, you know, like you don't know all the things. You go and buy 1 million rubles because you're like, yeah, I want to try out some of those cool guns, give them a try in this video game that I want to have fun, and oh, you're banned. Edge case, bro. See, people saying it's an edge case is exactly my point. It's exactly why the whole idea of all RMTers should be banned, no questions asked, get rid of the scum is brain dead. And if anybody that says edge case, bro, is an idiot because you haven't used your brains at all to try to empathize with another human being. I mean, really, what would be an infinitely better world is give them a warning in game and send it to their email. Delete the items that you think they RMT'd. Now, I'm not even going to get into how they know you did or not. That's a totally different story. But I'll also talk about that in a second. If they did that, gave you a warning, especially if it was one that they emailed to you and showed you in game and said buying items is against our game's terms of service, because no one reads the TOS. And if you're one of those people that said read the TOS, what do you expect? You're completely the most hypocritical clown I've ever heard, because I promise you haven't read any TOS in your goddamn life. Then now I'd be okay with them banning people. As long as they gave them a reasonable warning, because it's one of those things like
that makes sense.
So what you don't want, imagine if I was like, oh, you know, 1% of the time people will get sent to the death penalty. So, but you know, it's an edge case, so maybe you shouldn't be opposed to the death penalty or whatever. It's like,
and it's even not even
part
death
of why
penalty,
I'm opposed
man.
to it.
How many DMs have you gotten being like, "Oh my God, my account got banned. I swear to God, I'm not cheating. I was a thing." Like hear the agony on someone, how frustrated it would be. Like it's edge case, bro, until you didn't realize one of your homies was cheating, and they implement that thing where like if you play with cheaters, you get banned too. Like remember we talked about last week? That was my next point that I was going to get into. It's edge case, bro, until you didn't realize your homie was cheating. It's edge case, bro, until you didn't realize like this happened, and then you get banned, and then you end up DMing 1 million people saying, "Oh my God, please unban me." You know what I mean? It's like advocating for like the best possible scenario doesn't necessarily mean you're ignoring the realities of the situation, and it doesn't mean you're advocating for nothing to be done. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just like, and the thing is that you literally just put a solution right there where like if they want to do that, like you ban anybody that buys RMT, you know, give them a warning. You know what I mean? Because then it's like, you know, the way I live my life is like I want to have the most defensible position that I can, right? Like I want to let, like, this is how I deal with banning people in my chat. I want to make sure that they have buried themselves and then they get banned, right? So it's like, and such an easy way to do that is through a timeout. Somebody comes in and says some super stupid, we time him out, and I go, don't say that again. They come in and they say it again, and then they go, my freedom of speech. I'm like, no, you're stupid. You fell into my trap. You're not banned for what you said. You're banned because you're not listening. You're 11. Now we've removed it. We've separated from the original thing, and you can't say that you got banned for doing that. You got banned because you're stupid and you can't listen. And now that's an incredibly defensible position for me. And if you apply that same logic where it's like, if you give the warning before you ban somebody, it doesn't really hurt, because if they do it
addresses the edge case.
It addresses the edge case, and the someone that does it, they're going to do it again. They're going to get banned. But now you're in so much more of a defensible position when you ban the player, and it helps potentially remove some of the edge cases from that happening. And it's like,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's funny that the guy, and the best part is that because he was being a rude dickhead to me, and I just don't feel like putting up with it because I'm not a substitute teacher, I banned him from my chat. I wonder if he read my TOS.
Yeah, did he read your chat rules, your TOS?
I wonder if he's going to be mad that he feels like he got unfairly banned for maybe something that, I don't know, maybe wasn't clear to him, or I wonder if the irony is going to set in that I genuinely wonder. It's always the people that say bro.
Yeah.
To someone probably twice their age.
Yeah.
Hell. Okay, so and again, I'm not necessarily like, this is me giving an example of one particular edge case. Another one, and this is something that I'm not going to get into today, maybe next week. We'll see. Give him a temp ban for indirect cheating, not a bad idea. God almighty. Anyways, was the fact that, oh God, I shouldn't say anything.
Listen,
let me just put it this way. I'll put it this way, and maybe I'll get into it next week.
Okay.
The people always that are like, the people who play with cheaters, like no mercy, get rid of all of them. Are those people only ever solo players? Because what I want to know is how you know that your friends, your coworkers, your brother, your cousin, whoever it is you play with, how do you know? What are you able to do? Maybe they're people you met on Discord. Maybe they're people you met in my Twitch chat. How do you know they're not cheating? What you're doing is you're basically making it so that anytime anybody squads up with anybody, that you're risking your $150 potentially account.
Yeah.
Whether you know it or not. So the whole idea of playing with cheaters is unforgivable. First of all, it assumes you know. It assumes you could know. It assumes you can trust anybody.
Yeah.
Like, what standard of evidence would you need to be confident to bet me, a week's paycheck for some of these kids who were in junior high school? A month's paycheck, to buy EOD or whatever, if they're making $8 an hour and they work weekends only or whatever.
Yep.
So people just need to. And then when I bring this stuff up, they completely miss the point of the discussion, which is that I'm bringing up the fact that because there are edge cases, having this draconian, all cheaters, anybody who plays with cheaters, anybody who plays RMT, they're all banned. Get rid of them instantly. Well, then that's all well and good until you're the one who happens to be that edge case.
Yeah.
No one ever thinks it could be them. No one assumes that, you got to play with people you trust, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. It's unreal.
When you find out that people who were Sherpas, official Tarkov Sherpas, were cheating. Do you want all of the people who went to Tarkov's official Sherpa Discord to get Sherpa'd by people who have icons next to their name and then they get banned? No exceptions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't see a problem with that, you're out of your mind.
Yep.
Please stay away from my children that I don't have. Because and stay 1,000 feet away from any school bus, any firearms store. Like, dude, I'm concerned.
And to the point that you made at the very beginning, it's like the status of gaming culture is very much so that the expectation is that I can put real money into this game for more X. For more X, Y, or Z. That is very much so the standard and the expectation. It's not even just Bejeweled the mobile game or Raid Shadow Legends anymore. It's almost every AAA game is a game as a service, and there is a legitimate way to pour money into the game. Now, I'm not saying that means it's still an edge case. I'm not saying that, oh, well, almost everybody that RMTs just thought it was legit. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if you can't bring yourself as a human being to understand that and maybe empathize with a small amount of people that might get got by these websites that look super legit, I get DMs every week that there are really good looking ads under my videos. They target my videos. They target your videos. They target Pestily's videos, and they run ads for buying rubles and stuff like that with official assets and stuff like that. It's whack-a-mole. They can't take these guys down faster than they can pop up. You're saying that there's like no universe where, once again, what Veritas was originally advocating for wasn't we never ban them. It was that we warn them before we ban them. Like, if you can actually say that with the state of gaming, how legit these ads look, and Veritas' solution of warning them before we ban them, if you actually think that that would be the end of the world, dude, you are out of your mind. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. And we've got other folks, like, again, I'm going through the comments of the last video because I was trying to find one in particular, but people in chat are saying, like, anybody disagrees with you? Yeah. The fact that and people get confused when I point out like 1 or 2 or 3 comments as if I'm like focusing or it's upsetting me. No, I'm pointing it out because they're not the only one. It's just an example of something that is much more common than you think, where people say, you know, playing with cheaters is just as bad, get rid of them. And they don't see that as being completely in disagreement with any rationality. Like, it's completely at odds with just like reasonable, logical. But, you know, then we get comments that are like, I can't believe these guys are mad at BSG for banning people. I was upset about the whole couldn't possibly know that someone was doing an RMT. It's like,
you have to
that's
be
their takeaway.
You have to be far left or far right. You know what I mean? And so if you don't agree with me, that means you're far on the other team.
So yeah, I also got one more message I got from somebody, and this is the best part too. And this, what I'm about to say, will for anybody who could ever possibly potentially be in the market for RMT, this might actually be more helpful than a lot of other that people say in fighting against it. Had a couple messages actually from people telling me similar stories, which was, you know, it's always a friend of a friend or whatever. They would go to a website, and these are people who didn't even necessarily, like, I'm not even saying they didn't know it was against TOS or that it was frowned upon or whatever. Like, they probably knew in this scenario, and they're idiots. But it's just the idea that you look on the web page. And I'm not going to give specifics. I'm not trying to advertise anything, but it's like you get money, a bunch of money, you know, millions of rubles for next to no money. It's super, super cheap, affordable, and they can do it in 10 minutes. And what they do is they log into your account. You get like a temporary password and they log into the account, or this is one of the ways. And again, all of the comments and reviews and all this stuff saying, you know, don't have to worry about getting banned. It's super safe. It's super legit. They all tell you that. And then he logs into his account. He finds out he's banned like 2 days later for using cheats. And now he's mad because I never cheated. I never used cheats. Yeah. You had a guy log into your account that was using cheats. So, and then he's like, oh, but I also wasn't hardware ID banned. Yeah, well, because it wasn't your hardware, you know, that was cheating at the time. And he's using a hardware ID spoofer. But it's just the idea that, like, trust me, no matter how many times they can prove to you, they can demonstrate, they can have 20 people all tell you how confidently they are that it's undetectable and that it's unbanned. And every single cheat was undetectable until it was detected. Every, you know, like, all these people are essentially scamming you out of the money because this guy, first of all, got his account banned, so he lost the money, didn't get to spend any of the rubles he bought. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many things combined here about like how these services are all sketchy. What you're essentially doing is you're essentially like, if you get ripped off in a drug deal, you're not going to go to the cops. Like, so there's no recourse dealing with any of these companies for any of these transactions. You're not going to be getting any of your money back from any of these scumbags. You're probably going to get banned for it. So just don't be an idiot. And then if they actually like enforce things logically and fairly and reasonably and come up with decent rules and they're open and, you know, honest about all these things, well, then the people who actually deserve to get punished for things that should be punished for should get punished. And then there should be no chance of people who are not 100% certain or cheating can get punished, because that to me is the worst possible world. You know, I just picture it this way. do you want to live in a world where if there's 100 murderers that let's say you have a choice. There's 100 no, okay, wait. Let me. There's 100 people in a room.
Okay.
This is getting weird. Yeah. But these hypotheticals will hopefully make sense. I'm winging it. I don't know how I'm gonna end this yet, but I'm working on it. You're in a room. Okay. There's 100 people in the room. 10 of you are murderers.
Okay.
Okay. But you aren't. You're innocent.
Okay.
Do you want to live in a world where they only catch 5 of the murderers, but the other 5 can potentially get away with it? Or would you rather live in a world where they catch 8 of them
and kill 10 other people in the process?
No. Where they catch 10, but only 8 of the 10 are actually murderers and 2 could possibly be, or 2 are innocent. But you could be one of the innocent. Which world would you rather live in? I would rather live in a world where they only get 5. To me, that's less of a dystopian world than where they get 8, but 2 people get punished for murder that are innocent. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You have the worst face. Like,
no,
you've got the face when my wife is trying to lie to me about something, and she's like, "No, honey, yep, no, absolutely, honey, this is definitely what I wanted for Christmas, baby." Yeah, I'm like, "Oh no, I didn't. It's definitely not what you wanted for Christmas."
No, it's the reality that, like, yeah, that both suck. Which one just sucks less? You know what I mean? And that's the thing, is that, like, everybody's attitude is like, just fix cheaters. You know what I mean? Like, there's an on-off switch that just gets them all with 100% accuracy. And yeah, I agree with you. It just sucks. It just sucks that those are the only 2 worlds. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's like, when you put it like that so plainly, it's a reminder that those are probably the only 2 worlds, and it just sucks that those are the only 2 worlds.
Yeah. So there's that.
All right.
I tapped it back into Tarkov, so it's gonna be 10 minutes before I can see anything except for a black screen.
Did you see the Call of Duty showcase or anything about that, or do you not care at all?
I saw there was like a tweet with a little teaser that was them talking about like their AI design kind of thing. It reminded me very much of the Splinter Cell Blacklist like dev talk that I put in my AI video.
Yep.
That was really cool. I didn't see anything else on it yet. Was that it, or was there more?
No, yeah. So there was a whole.
I think there was more.
There was a whole lot more. So basically, of course, we're gonna get the people that are like COD, wow, you know, just like Fortnite. But so basically, like the it's like the Call of Duty extended universe. You know what I mean? At this point, they're like single-handedly trying to like take the entire FPS genre by storm. So they showed a lot about like their campaign, which looks really like sick. The past few campaigns they've done, especially like the 2019 Modern Warfare one, was really good, really cool, short but like really cinematic, really just like cool. And then they talked a lot about multiplayer and the different multiplayer modes that are coming. And then they talked about Warzone 2.0. So Warzone is like the biggest battle royale, I guess, in the world, or at least up there. And they, Warzone 2.0. And then they also talked about DMZ a little bit, which is their like extraction mode, their like Tarkov mode. And then they showed a, like, you know how like the thing that always set like Battlefield apart was like Battlefield's, where like it was like one giant map and like the teams were trying to like hold points. You know what I mean? That was like Battlefield was less about like 6v6. That was like Call of Duty, and Battlefield were like these large scale, like get these points, push people to the other side. I don't know if you play much Battlefield, but then they showed off a mode like that. So like the basically like the Modern Warfare 2 is going to have like a campaign, a single player campaign, arena style multiplayer, a big Battlefield style game, a BR, and a Tarkov mode, all in this game, which is nuts. And so obviously the thing that like most of the Tarkov people are most interested in is the DMZ mode. And bro, So they didn't give us a lot of information, and we don't know about like the way that geeks put it is like, what's the carrot at the end of the stick, right? Like we don't know what the loot is going to be. We don't know what's the reason I want to extract. Is it more like battle pass credits, or is there like, is there character progression? You know what I mean? We don't know what that is. But so
perks, man. Dead silence at 44.
Yeah. Did you ever play Warzone, the big battle royale?
Yeah,
a few times.
Less like single digit number of times.
But like you see, it's like a big map, right? Like that's the kind of the whole point of like the battle royales is that like do they drop 100 or 150 people into those maps? I don't know. It's a lot. It's like so those are big maps, right? So this map, the Warzone 2 map, they show so right now in Warzone they drop 150. This map that they just showed is bigger. They said it's our biggest battle royale map yet. And the DMZ mode takes place in the entirety of the map. This might be the closest thing we get to open world Tarkov.
I mean, that sounds like DayZ size island, right? Like it would take you like an hour to get from end to end or whatever walking.
So think Tarkov style where you go in and they literally made it sound like you can extract whenever you want. They said you can extract when you've accomplished your goal. So they kind of made it sound like you're going to be in there doing different missions, that you're going to be doing different stuff. You can extract when you want, and there's going to be tons of people. It's going to be a ginormous world. A huge thing that they are adding is AI that's going to be in this world. There's going to be bosses. There's going to be these things called strongholds, which are like encampments of like really hardcore AI. They showed off their AI in the nav mesh and how they move around and how they think. And
sick, do they shoot with their machine guns through buildings or no?
Yeah. And they said before in a previous thing that they were like leaking up to this event, they had said that they had been doing internal tests with over 200 different AI on the map alive. So like, once again, what's frustrating is that like, I'm not trying to get the...
It's going to be nothing like Tarkov. It's going to be another thing where it's like the new Tarkov-like game mode that sounds exactly like it. That wouldn't be nothing like it.
It could be nothing like it. And that's what's frustrating is that we don't understand what is the carrot at the end of the stick. What is the details of the game? But what I'm excited about is the fact that it's like, it has at least what we do have confirmed are things in the game that we want in Tarkov that we don't have. The question is the core gameplay similar enough to scratch that itch in a more casual setting or not? So, as somebody who really has no opinion of Call of Duty, I have not played Call of Duty since me and my friends were plugging our Xboxes all in my buddy's room 5-6 years ago for whenever the newest one came out. Since Tarkov, I have not played. I don't know about the gunplay. I don't know about the mechanics. I don't know about the monetization. I don't have an opinion. So I'm not going into it thinking this is going to be the best thing ever and it's going to completely take out Tarkov. But I'm not going into it assuming it's going to be terrible because it's Call of Duty. Just like everybody says everything Fortnite does sucks. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm just right there in the middle. We got information today that truly interested me. And the DMZ mode is tied to Warzone, and Warzone is free. So you don't have to buy it in order to get Warzone or the DMZ mode.
Yeah, I mean, I am looking forward to seeing. I'm not looking forward to the game.
I'm looking forward
to seeing what it is.
Exactly. And that's exactly where I'm at too.
Anybody that rolls their eyes and says, "Oh, it's COD," is just the epitome
Grow up.
It's the epitome of people being afraid to speak for themselves.
Yeah.
To have a fun, unique.
What do you want?
You know what? Do you know what they want? They want all of their friends to think exactly the same as them and everybody to like them.
Yeah,
and that's why they have to make fun of COD, because that's what all their friends do, and they have to laugh at the same time.
All the comments were like, "This is a straight copy of Tarkov," or "Yeah, but it's COD and COD sucks." And I'm like, listen, COD sucks. Tarkov sucks. It all sucks. Don't we want it all to be better? Don't we want good games? If you think COD sucks, A, 10 million people play it, so it can't suck that hard. B, do you want COD to be deleted? Like, should we send a tactical nuke to the Infinity Ward offices and just remove all trace? Or do we want COD to be better? wouldn't it be interesting if just COD was better? No, I'm not saying, no, the part of this here that's frustrating is that, like, by you being like, when somebody says, well, it's COD, so it's going to suck, and you go, not necessarily, and they go, oh, well, you're just a COD fanboy then. Like that was what was happening earlier, was like, oh, so you just think it's going to be great. No, I don't think anything. I think it's not even a game yet. Like, we don't know what it is. We have no information on it. And so it's just like, it's just so stupid. Like, I just don't get it. Like, don't we want good games? And yes, now I'm not saying buy into marketing speak. I'm definitely not saying pre-order Modern Warfare 2. I'm not saying spend your money. I'm saying, like, just wait to have an opinion until you have details. Like, you think that the stupidest person in the room is the guy that's just excited about it because it's COD and he's going to spend his money on it. But when you decide...
And I haven't seen a single one of those.
I haven't seen a single one of those.
They're the people that everybody complains about that don't exist.
But you don't realize you're just as stupid by assigning the reverse value. You think somebody's dumb for saying it's going to be good when they don't know anything about it yet. So you say it's going to be stupid because I don't know anything about it yet. You don't understand that you're literally, in my view, just as dumb. Just as dumb.
The only difference is that you exist and the caricature that you're arguing against doesn't, which is ironic.
So just shut up, wait. And, you know, if they did a huge gameplay reveal and showed everything, and somebody in my chat goes, I don't know, man, that doesn't look fun to me, I'd be like, I understand. You know what I mean? But, like, we literally have we have the name and what map it's going to use, and people are like, this is going to be terrible. And it's like,
no, it could be a big giant meh fest like every Battlefield in COD that I've seen for a while.
Yep.
Or it could be amazing.
Yeah.
But there's literally no reason to have to, like, pick
this early
one or the other, or, you know, like,
it's just exactly it's a roll of the dice.
Maybe I'm asking myself this out loud. Honestly, am I being hypocritical? Because whenever BSG, no, I think I'm consistent. Because when people say, like, Streets is going to be amazing, I'm like, I don't know, dude. I don't really give a
yeah.
If it's amazing, then it'll be amazing enough and I'll play it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be trash. I'm saying I wouldn't put money on it being amazing, but that's because I wouldn't put money on a coin flip.
You wouldn't buy the Streets DLC yet when it's not out yet. You wouldn't literally put your money on it. You're just saying, let's just wait and see. Like, you especially at your point with how much in Tarkov, it's just like, why even waste any more brain space? Let's just wait and see. And so I get, and what I'm not trying to say is, like, I get both sides of the argument. You just don't have to run full sprint with blinders on to the edge of your own argument. If you're not excited about it because you haven't liked the past 11 Call of Duties, I actually understand if you're like, I don't think this is going to be very good. You lean that way because the history of it, and the vice versa. These slight leans, I'm okay with, but that's not what happens in chat. People come in and they're like, this is dog nuts. It's going to be the worst game I've ever played in my life. And I'm like, why did you run to the edge of your own argument? You make yourself look so much stupider instead of just saying, I haven't been impressed with the recent Call of Duties. I'm not really looking forward to it.
Oh God, it's because of
the fun.
It's because I get it, and it's because of the world we live in. Because if you step outside your front door or you turn on anything that broadcasts another human being's opinion, all you hear is one hand-drawn caricature, and where on one side people are saying that they would rather the mother die than have her be able to have an abortion, and on the other end you have, I support aborting 2-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are the two. There's
just
literally that's all you hear. That's the discussion. You never, all the reasonable people are in the middle looking around like, what the actual of every topic, everywhere, all the time, about everything.
It's true.
It's because, and literally nobody is capable of hearing something. I don't know, like, I don't know if people have to either train themselves to do this or untrain something else that has been trained in them. But imagine if you just sit there and someone says an idea and you listen to the words they say and you think about it for a few minutes.
Whoa, that's crazy talk.
You don't think about what everybody else might think. You don't think about, what did my friends say? What did my favorite content creator tweet? What did my favorite politician say? What did my dad tell me? What did my pastor at my church tell me? What did my teachers tell me? And you just think, let me use my brain and have the balls to think for myself and come up with my own conclusion.
Interesting. I think I'll just regurgitate the most recent tweet from my favorite podcaster.
Listen, nobody will ever write bad Reddit posts about you if you do that.
Damn.
If you never think for yourself, then you always have an infinite source of friends, no matter what. And you know what's also great is I think that that if you're a part of that club, that you get a discount on bulk pitchforks and torches at your local Sam's Club. It's like the mob mentality membership, the MMM, the triple M deal.
The mob
Whereas
mentality membership.
If you just throw away all critical thinking and all intellectual honesty and the actual respect and desire for what's true in our universe, and you just take what certain people or groups say at face value and don't think about it at all for yourself, then there's so many perks, dude.
So many perks. Yep.
Oh, but it also works at Costco, yeah, if there's no Sam's Club in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works. Okay, we can cross off Wood Slander because it's a dog map. We can cross off no, I'm just kidding. Woods is fine. I just thought it was funny when someone was asking me if you had to delete any map, what would you delete? And I was trying to figure out what. And all I was thinking about was like, when I think map, I think about like, okay, imagine you think of like did you ever see me make tracks in Trackmania?
Like while you were like building them?
Yeah, it's like a stadium with like a big rectangle and it's just grass and you put shit down. And it's like deleting the map, you end up with a big grass patch, and I'm like, well, that kind of is woods. Like, there's nothing to delete there. It's just literally the empty space before you put on it. Of course, I'm being facetious.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah. Now this is something I don't know if we talked about, but it was an idea that came to me a few weeks back, and while I was having like a rant about like the movement and everything. And actually, what I was going to say was I was playing Tarkov today, and today I've had a great day playing Tarkov, and I've had no other than one, I think, cheater. I don't know, the game has felt fine. There wasn't any real super experiences. Haven't really seen any really geared people except one raid where all I had was PSO 9mm, and
everyone had an Alton,
and a dude had an Alton in factory. Yeah, the only Alton I've seen, and I tapped the guy 7 times in the face, and I guarantee he was just like got bit by a mosquito, you know.
Yeah.
But so this the idea that I had was about stamina. Now, imagine conceptually, I just got confused by my bigger, longer, uncut, the movie gone sexual. Let me delete that. Confused me. I added a meme onto the end of my notes. And it was like stamina idea of.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. Imagine if your stamina bar, I guess, doesn't need to be bigger. You just fill it with more points, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but imagine if it went down much slower, but it basically didn't regen quickly at all. Or maybe it would regen like it does now to like the first 5-10% or whatever, and then after that it would almost be like when you repair a limb, you can get it back to full, but full is smaller, like it's less maximum.
Yeah.
Because think about it. Think about how annoying it is that you jog for like a minute and now you are unable to run.
Yeah.
And then you jog for a minute and you're unable to run. It's such an annoying and not realistic and not immersive and not fun. And it's bad. It's like arbitrarily bad. Whereas, sitting down and resting, like if you were sitting there and you weren't moving, then the maximum of the bar would grow.
Oh, interesting.
So resting was actually resting, but you should be able to jog for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a full sprint, but like jog for 10, 15, 20 minutes if you need to or whatever. But then if you do that, you're going to have to rest before you can jog for more than 15 seconds or something, right? Like,
that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it'd be better. Everything would just be infinitely better.
It's an interesting point that, like, the current system, everybody, defends as realistic. But, like, if you've got 40 kilos of loot on you and I run until I am physically unable to run, I'm heavy breathing, I never stop moving. I just walk for 30 seconds. And now I am at the point where I can run that exact same distance again.
It's you know what I mean? You never ran.
Exactly. I can, after running as far as I possibly can, not stopping, but actually walking, continuing to move.
Human limit.
Yeah. Continuing to move for another 30 seconds. I am then able to resume my running for exactly my human being maximum an additional time. When you put it that way, you're like, that is actually ridiculously unrealistic. So that's a really interesting thought experiment of like, playing with like multiple modes of it, where like the stamina bar goes down, but then also your max stamina goes down. Walking, like walking while underweight means you can regain your stamina a little bit, but the bar is smaller now. So then if you want the bar to get bigger, you have to find a place to actually rest for a little bit. And like that is a really interesting, like, I haven't thought about all the implications of that in like fights and stuff like that. But that's a really interesting way to put it, where you're going to be at your maximum stamina at the beginning of the raid, right? You just infilled. You're at your maximum strength. You know what I mean? And so as the decisions you make pan out, you might need to go rest for a little bit and regain some of that strength. Maybe there's food and water items that increase that bar, because those food and water items require you to not be doing anything else, right? Like you're in a very vulnerable spot when you're eating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's like a 7 or 8 second animation. So that's a really interesting idea.
It just makes a lot more sense in that. And what it does is it solves the problem of when you're out of energy.
Yeah.
Literally think about conceptually what that would mean in real life. You literally cannot, someone's shooting at you. There's Jason's behind you with the knife, slow walking towards you, and you are unable to jog. You know how tired you would need to be?
Yeah.
Incredible. Like the most
tired,
exhausted. Yeah.
Than waiting 30 seconds and then being able to full sprint again.
Yeah. So it's just ridiculous. Like, so this solves that problem, is that like, don't push yourself to the maximum for an hour straight, right? You're going to be exhausted and probably pass out. I don't know why everybody's bringing up weight. Like, weight is completely irrelevant to this conversation. All weight should do is make the numbers more or make the numbers less. It doesn't change anything conceptually.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like right now, what people are saying is that effectively what you can do is bicep curl. The maximum you can bicep curl one curl for, wait 4 seconds,
and then do it again,
and then do it again once, and then wait 4 seconds and do it again once, forever. Sorry, there's going to be a point where you can't lift your arm, and if you disagree,
go try it.
You've never been to the gym.
Go try it.
And look at my arms. Clearly, I'm an expert.
Yeah, exactly. Weight would scale just virtually identical to how it does now. The heavier you are, the faster that stamina bar would go down, and the faster the max stamina would burn as well. You would find a way of scale that felt appropriate for the weight that you had. But the point is the concept. Exactly. The point is the concept.
Yeah. So, but the reason why they don't do that again, we're talking about issues being bound by other issues being bound by other issues.
Yeah.
Is because all of the value in raids used to be in 2 rooms, and so that people would spawn, and the spawns are uneven, so people would spawn, hold shift W, and get to the room with the thing, and then if you didn't win the foot race, then you lost the chance at winning the Bitcoin that might have spawned in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So you make it there 1 out of 10 raids, and the LEDX spawns there 1 out of 10 raids. You're gonna 100 raids before you get that LEDX. Yep. So instead, people just shift. Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna nerf the stamina to make it, so that you can't just full sprint over and over and over again. It's like, well, then you end up with a scenario where you're being shot at. You were as fresh as you could possibly be. You carb loaded last night. You got a good night's sleep. You woke up this morning. You had a nice clean salad and a protein shake and some pre-work or whatever and you jog for 30 seconds, and now you are so tired that if someone was shooting at you, you couldn't possibly go faster than the slowest possible walk.
Yep.
And again, this is just this is one of those ideas where, because it's realistic isn't the reason why it's good. It's good because it's good. It also happens to be realistic, which is a bonus.
And the realism argument, the realism argument is almost never a reason why our ideas are good. The realism is to bring up because the most common excuse for why our ideas are bad is because they're not realistic. Like that's the thing. Like we brought up realism because every time on this podcast we brought up stamina for the past 2 years. Anytime when I'm like, I hate the stamina system, somebody goes, you try and carry 63 kilograms. Like that's
you try and run when you get shot in your thigh with a fragmenting bullet.
I don't care. I'm just saying,
let me try that.
If you like the way Tarkov is right now and you say you care, you're just lying to yourself. That's the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Tower just said in chat, the guys who had to run out of Fallujah after Black Hawk Down went off clearly stopped sprinting, jogging every 100 meters.
Yeah. No matter how much weight they had.
Or not even 100 meters, 25 meters.
Yeah. Unless they had
I can't cross a road. Like literally, when you come up the hill from the spawn where you're over by like the campfire, if you like jog up the hill, you're out of stamina like 3/4 of the way across the road.
Yeah. Unless
give me a break.
Unless you're level 15 and you can buy a SJ6 and a 3BTG. And you can run from one side of shoreline to the other and still have a 1/4 of a bar of stamina left. Or the mule, dude. People say people get so butthurt about realism. They're standing there and they're being crushed under the burden of what's in their backpack, and they go, "I'm strong," and now they can run.
Yeah.
and they're like, no, don't change stamina. It's realistic.
Yeah, they must, whatever's in the mule. It must be. They must. You know what they do? They must. This has to be how they harvest it. They have to put like babies underneath like a car rolls over onto a baby, and they put the mother next to it. You know how the moms get like crazy, save their kid's strength, and then at that very moment they go and they suck out whatever's going through their veins,
that like adrenaline filled blood or whatever.
Yep. That might be the adrenochrome that everybody's talking about. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, using a tesseract, and then that's how you get the mule stem.
Yeah. Yeah. Does the baby die then? No. The part is they made like a lifelike replica of the baby.
Yeah.
They faked the mom out.
Yeah.
It's totally unethical the way they harvest it, but at least no babies were harmed
or even in danger in the process, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically the guy who is babysitting all of the babies that are in like daycare.
Yeah.
He's got a sketchy past, but nothing felonious, so we weren't allowed to not hire him.
This really went off the rails quick.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah,
never mind.
God damn it.
What should today's secret word be based on the conversations we've had?
Didn't I say something about like tentacled horses or something earlier? I forget. Although I realize that's like
maybe you thought about it.
I just said someone's code word, if you know what I mean, and that's scratched someone's itch. We're not gink shaming here on the Kink cast.
Yeah.
on the kink cast, but yeah. Mom veins? Is that like mom jeans?
Edge case. That's a good one. Edge case.
I'm edging. No.
Whoa.
That's not it. Holy. Oh, never mind. We started a little late. I was gonna say this wasn't like 3 hours.
No, this was 2 hours and 10 minutes, and we started a little late.
Imagine if I was still trying to extend that sentence out to pull up my stats.
That would be
this whole. You know what?
30 minutes.
No, all 100 and whatever episodes of this podcast has all been one elaborate, expanded. I was just waiting for Tarkov to load the menus.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for hanging with us. That was another good one. Type edge case in either one of our chats if you made it this far, or comment it down below. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging. Dude, this one another good one. Good conversation. I feel like you and me were like vibing and then just fighting off the perception of what we were talking about the whole time. You know what I mean? Like I was with you the whole time on.
Oh yeah, I was fighting with my brain's ability. I feel foggy as today.
Dude,
I don't know what the deal is.
Again, bro.
I don't know what the deal is. My brain, I keep trying to like explain stuff, and then while I'm talking, it's like I'm outside of my body watching me talk, thinking at the same time.
Don't say that.
First of all, dog, you forgot what you were saying, so I don't know where this is going to go. I guess we'll all see where this is going to go. And two, you are now becoming visibly obvious that this is the case, that you've forgotten what you were saying, and now you're just talking, hoping that maybe you're going to, and then I'm panicking, which makes me even more distracted. And then I go quiet for a little bit, and then Jesse tries his best to like sweep up the crumbled pieces.
Back home, land the plane.
Yeah.
But all in all, solid episode. Thank you guys for hanging. I
played Tarkov before, and I'm gonna continue to play Tarkov after an episode of the podcast for the first time in a long time.
That's been a long time. But level 15, enjoy the flea market. That's wonderful.
Oh, well, never mind. Now you just convinced me there's no reason to play the game anymore.
All right. Have fun playing Trackmania. Chess. That's right. Anyways, thank you guys so much for hanging. We appreciate you being here. Thanks for being a part of the podcast fam. The support's been crazy. As per usual, this will be live on all the podcast channels next week. I forgot to post the podcast on the Spotify last week. I posted on YouTube in the right day, but then I missed the day, and I'm sorry.
Everybody came in and was like, do you know why it's not?
Yeah. I'm
like, I don't know. Hit Jesse up.
Go talk to Jesse.
Punish him.
But thank you guys. Appreciate you being here, and we'll definitely see y'all on the next one.
Peace.